Oh, absolutely. Mr. Burns has probably the largest contract, 14 billion with a B, and he's going to be on the show to tell us how he got that done. So it's going to be exciting to hear for a guy who is doing some exciting things, and that 14 billion is just a tip of the iceberg.
Yes, sir. And I definitely love the segment that we will be getting into as the year rolls on to 2023, standing on the shoulders of giants. Now, who are some of these giants, Prez?
Well, you got the great Dr. Arthur Fletcher, my mentor, who was a father of affirmative action, Perry Mitchell, Gus Savage, Booker T. Washington. I mean, all these legends will be a part of our conversation because we cannot forget from which shoulders we stand on and forget the things that people have done for us to make things better. And we have an obligation to continue that legacy. So we're excited about the legacy of great leaders that we're going to be talking about throughout the whole year.
Oh, yes, sir, man. That's walking in our power. The power of words and how, sometimes I get caught up into my Black Panther Wakanda, about the colonizers, and how they like to neutralize us and what we do. So prayers, please enlighten us on some of the things that the others do to keep us at bay.
Yeah, one of the things that's so important to, I think, our audience is to understand how to defend yourself. And I can't tell you the number of calls I've gotten over time where people come in and say, I went to the meeting and they said they had an aspirational goal, and which means that Larry, they don't have to do nothing if they don't want to do nothing. Or they say, well, we got home rule. And there's so many things that people say, attorneys say, Caucasian people say to keep us at bay so that we don't move forward, that we're not aggressive enough because they use it. Well, they don't have a disparity study. So we're going to train you to know the buzzwords and how to neutralize those comments. So you're going to be smarter and better, and you're going to help us to help you all at the same time.
Yes, sir. Mhm. Yes, sir. Sir.
Well, Well, here's what they do. And I'll just be real quick because I know we got so much to cover today. When you talk about home rule, you can have a conversation with a municipality, and you'll find Caucasian people say, well, we're under home rule when it comes to procurement, so we don't have to do certain things a certain way like the state does or anybody else because we have home rule. Well, that's just smoke and mirrors because when they say that, they're really trying to tell you, because most of the time you don't know what home rule means. So they're really trying to tell you that, you don't have no authority over us because we're under home rule. And it really has nothing to do with the conversation. So we're going to get down and show you how they say it, how they use it, and how to neutralize it all at the same time.
Now, prayers. Let me jump in there. I know. Are there more than just attorneys that use this language to keep us held back?
All the time, man. Those who are masters at keeping us in a position of weakness they probably have a handbook on how to neutralize black folks. And that's why we're still talking about the same thing for the last 15, 20 years. on getting access, and reaching our goals and objectives. And this is what they specialize in. And I can tell you, man, when you get it, when you listen to this, we're going to arm you how to defend against an attorney who want to talk about you don't have a disparity study, how the Supreme Court is going to rule. And these are all things are buzzwords to kind of get you to stand down and to get people on the board and the community to stand down and think that they're hopeless against these kind of tactics that they use. So we're going to train you so that you know how to defend against it. Well, it's a home rule where basically where the state or the city or municipality, well, the city municipality will say because we're home rule, we have certain things that we don't have to do that's different, and we don't have to what the state does and everybody else does doesn't apply to us. And when you say it, just think about it. You're having a conversation, and someone says, "Well, you Larry, we're home rule." And what that's supposed to, as soon as you're talking about procurement and putting some teeth into procurement and making sure that you have a fair procurement process where Black people are participating, because they haven't been participating in some municipalities since they started that particular community, that municipality, that city. And they use this as a matter of a strategy. And if you don't know what it means and know how to defend against it, it's like it neutralizes you. I watch them in meetings where people have invited me to come in to colleges, to municipalities, and say, Larry, we need you. And we're experts at this because we were trained by the late Arthur Fletcher and others, Karen Mitchell and others. So we're going to show you what it means, how to deal with it, and how you help move the agenda forward, guys.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Hey, Mike, I think I couldn't put it into better words. It is exactly that how they utilize it, in terms of just stopping them from doing anything that you would want them to do. That's fair, that's equitable, that makes good business sense at the same time. And I can, like I said, I'll give some real examples of real conversations I've had in the city of Champaign County and others. And people who come up to me and say, Larry, there's a sense of hopelessness that they don't, they can't do nothing, but they can. And we need more armies of people with knowledge because when light comes, darkness has to flee. So we want to bring the light so darkness can't stay in the same room when the light comes. And we want you to be the light, but we need to educate you so you understand how to neutralize them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now you alluded to a gentleman a few minutes ago, and that's definitely he's gonna be highlighted on our segment, standing on the shoulders of giants. You mentioned Dr. Arthur Fletcher. Please enlighten me and our listeners who this gentleman is.
Well, Dr. Fletcher is one of the iconic people who served four different presidents. He was a Republican. But if you talk to Democrats like, Luana and others who knew Art Fletcher, he was a Republican, but he was a brother who was down um, more than anyone could imagine. He fought. He fought to make sure that we had affirmative action. He was a father of affirmative action. He coined the phrase, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste," as he headed the United Negro College Fund. And this guy did so much to protect Black people, and he poured into me. We traveled around the country together, And I would advise the audience to look up Dr. Arthur Fletcher. His father was a Buffalo Soldier. He was one of the first NFL football players. He got a Medal of Honor in Patton's Army. But more importantly, what he did, because he was a part of the Black battalion, armored battalion, and he got the Medal of Honor. But the point with Art is that Art fought for Black people, and he fought anyone who knew him, whether you were Democrat or Republican, knew that he was down. I still never forget the day that when Bush called him and asked him about helping him in his election, and I was with him when President Bush called, and he said, "Well, I need to know what your position on affirmative action is going to be." And he says, "I can't. My legacy is affirmative action. I need to know, will you support it?" And he basically kind of shut the conversation down because he understood, and he forced me to understand, how important it was for us to make things better for our next generation. So Art Fletcher, Perrin Mitchell, we got so many, Booker T. Washington, we got so many great people, that gave their lives, Dr. King, others who did so much, Malcolm X, the list goes on and on of great people. And we should celebrate them. We should talk about their legacy. And they had it much more difficult to us. And they stood up and they said what needed to be said without being afraid. And they did it to make it better for us. And here we are, much better off because of the work they've done, and we're still afraid to speak up and speak out.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, let me just say this, man. I'll never forget the story. It will stay with me forever. When he wrote affirmative action, they didn't know that he had a background and took some correspondence courses in law and had a degree in law. And when he came into the Nixon administration as the Assistant Secretary of Labor, he went to work. And one of the stories, once he wrote affirmative action under the Philadelphia Plan, he had to go to different places to talk about it. And obviously those who didn't want affirmative action, and it was some of the unions, it was especially the union boys, because they were dealing with the workforce. And when he had to have the hearings, he was sent by President Nixon to come to Chicago. At the time, there was Mayor Daley, the old Mayor Daley, who was the mayor at that point, and he stayed at the Palmer Hotel. And he had just got to, going through the hearings, and the labor people found out, the union people found out he was at the Palmer Hotel, and he said he had this, yeah, in Chicago, and he said he had this. I love how he said he had this beautiful little secretary with him who was really smart. He said, so as they're sitting there, you could hear. He said you could hear them coming up the steps, cursing, and we gonna kill that nigga. And they were just shouting, and we're talking about the union boys who did not want affirmative action to happen. They're charging up the stairs. They gonna kill her. You can hear the ruckus. You can hear them just coming up shit. Boom, 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 boom. And he says, he says his assistant was so smart, and she let out a real scream where they could hear her, and said, "Dr. Fletcher, put down that gun. Don't shoot these white folks." He said you could. He said you couldn't hear. He said you couldn't hear. He said it was amazing to hear how they were scrambling down them steps. but after that, what happened was that President Nixon sent a letter, and I saw the letter to Mayor Daley, letting them know that Art Fletcher was his guy, and that if any harm came to him, he was going to send the first airborne into Chicago. And it was not a veiled threat, it was a promise that if any harm came to Art Fletcher, that the President of the United States was going to act quickly and swiftly in bringing in the airborne into Chicago. And I saw the letter from the President Nixon talking about, Art Fletcher. And, the other thing that I remember, the story that I'll never forget, is when Art Fletcher was in the hospital and he had triple bypass surgery, and he had given his life. His wife had committed suicide because she couldn't take it, because once he left politics as Assistant Secretary of Labor, he was also represented the UN and gave one of the most iconic speeches before Russia and America. It's legendary. He fell on tough times. They tried to make sure that he didn't eat, that he couldn't get a job, he couldn't even sell a car. And his wife, he had a good number of kids. His wife couldn't take it anymore, and she decided to commit suicide and jump off the bridge. And so I remember the day when people were talking about how tough it was. He had tears in his eyes. He said, "Look, you don't know what tough is." And he told the story about how many kids he had. He couldn't find a job, and his wife could no longer take it. And so she committed suicide, jumped off the bridge and committed suicide. But he said he never gave up. And so he said, "Don't tell me about what tough is." Right. He wrote Black people in. And that's why I will always admire Art Fletcher, the father of affirmative action. Would not have affirmative action if it wasn't for Arthur Fletcher, the father of affirmative action, the Assistant Secretary of Labor, the head of the United Negro College Fund, and iconic leader. So I was just proud that I had a chance to hang out with him. And he talked about Perrin Mitchell, Gus Savage. All these are great leaders, man, with great stories. And we have an obligation, I think, Mike and Buddy Love, to help to fulfill and continue the legacy that Malcolm X, Dr. King, and we're still fighting for equity and inclusion. We built this country, guys, and we're still fighting for our fair share. And I always say what Ken Duncan said. He said, "Look, there's no discrimination when it comes to collecting taxes. There ought to be no discrimination when it comes to getting contracts." Don't-
Still are. Yeah.
Hey, and don't forget, when you talk about land, you can't talk about land without talking about Manny Jackson, man. Yeah, he was a man. Yeah, he was a guy who he came in just like Mayor Harold Washington. They came in with the intentionality of putting Black people, giving Black people contracts that they never had before, and they made it happen. And we get so too often we got too many of our people who get in the position of power and authority, the heads of critical departments, and nothing changes. Black
Right.
people are no better off. Matter of fact, in some cases, they're worse off. And and that's not the role. You know, when I sit on a board, everybody who appointed me to a board knew who I was when they appointed me. If they didn't want someone to be an advocate for black business, then they should have read my resume.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
you should
That's
have
right.
read the resume. I mean, it was out there. It's clear. You know, ain't like I fooled you. You know,
Hey, they
why
say
you
like you
mad
say
at me
that.
if I
Hey, they
black
better
people? That's
Google
what I
it.
do.
They better
Yeah,
Google your name, man.
they better Google something. You know.
Oh, definitely, definitely. They can always give us a call at WVON at 773-591-1690. We know it's New Year's Eve, but come on, give us a call and let's talk shop. Exactly. Start the year off right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Definitely, man. Come on, man. We would not be sitting here without the great woman. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
It's the woman's work that allows us to be here because we had to come through that chamber, right?
Yes.
so,
Absolutely.
so that's the thing. So we want to celebrate women to show our side as far as diversity and inclusion because they had a lot to say. And right now, if you look at the landscape of business and other arenas, women are leading that charge like they did even when it was time to step up to the plate for affirmative action and moving things forward. They were on that front line. So why wouldn't they be on the front line with us here to do our thing? Because we definitely have invited a select cast of professional women to helm and host the show on a monthly episode type deal. And man, we looking forward to some of these brilliant women coming in and giving their knowledge in their space. So who are some of these women, Prez, that we should expect to see that's coming on in on the Wake Up Show?
Well, hey, I'm glad you asked, man, because I want to give a shout out to all these very talented sisters. I'm going to start with one of our board members, Joyce Johnson, who runs Anchor Staffing, one of the great companies. She has a staffing company. She's going to be on the show with a woman's perspective. We also have Tina Augustus, who's another board member, the president of a Chamber of Commerce in Chicago. She's going to be on board with us. We also have a chamber president out of Rockford from a different perspective, Pastor Sheila Brown, who is rocking Rockford, doing some great things in Rockford and expanding the footprint and carrying the torch in Rockford. We also have Terry Simmons, who is the head of the Small Business Development Center, an iconic woman who's been in government, who is a champion for getting contracts and also access to capital with the SBA. She's going to be on the show with us. And we got one other person. I'm trying to figure who was that last person, Mike, that we had. We got Tina,
Did you mention Gail?
Joyce, Gail Newcomb. Yeah, Gail Newcomb. And hey, I'm proud that we got Gail Newcomb going to be on the show with us. I've known Gail for a number of years. She's a businesswoman. She cuts to the chase. These women are powerful, but you're going to have a woman's perspective. And we can't talk about diversity if we don't represent diversity. So every month we're going to have women who will be running the show and giving the perspective from the women's perspective on the topic of business, procurement, and some of the challenges they may encounter. So you don't want to miss this show. They're going to be dynamic and they're great women. They will be inviting special guests on the show also. Yes. Yeah. Hey, Mike, we'll just be calling in while they've been running the show for on that day, on that week. So I'm excited about that, man, because they go ahead. Hey, and if any five of them are on the listening to the show, call in and let us say hello to the audience to get them primed for you, because I know you guys gonna rock. You're gonna rock the world here.
Yes. 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 Yes, definitely. That's 773-591-1690. The Wake Up Show. Come on and join us this morning. Right.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. The lines are lit. The lines are lit. Yes, sir.
Well, well, well. First of all, let me acknowledge the fact that our team have gotten together, and we got a theme for 2023. It's called Black Excellence Needs No Excuse. You know, and we got that from Brother Dr. Sterling, because him and I would talk every day about some of the challenges, and that's going to be the theme. And on the horizon, we're going to be dealing with some of the issues. We're still tied into procurement. We've had some things in the past, Mike, as we can, if we can, we ought to just kind of do a quick piece on some of the things that we covered in 2022 as we look forward in 2023.
Definitely. Hey, listen, listen, I mean, every day. Yes, definitely, man. So I definitely have to start, because now being a part of the chamber and sitting at that head seat for cannabis for a year, it allowed me to get out in the space to really see how cannabis was going to affect um, blacks and browns alike in the business sector for cannabis. So there were major moves to allow licensing to really captivate the audience, so to speak. But it ran into it's uh, I'm trying to be delicate when I say this because when we talk about the legal side of cannabis, there's been a lot going on here in the state which has put us behind the gamut as opposed to other states. But as we start to close out this year, as we went through mid-year to get to where we are now, you can start seeing some of those plans open up a bit. We've had a few starting to open up their doors and small craft grows. And now we have another 55 licenses that are being offered for dispensaries coming up. At application process will be January 31st online for those that are interested. But the main thing that I really enjoyed about the cannabis space this year was seeing blacks really being aggressive about entering the space because as Mike can attest to as well, we saw that there was a great opportunity for us to do some things to create some sort of generational wealth for our families. And that wasn't always based around touching the plant as well, because Mike and I, we're on the other side of the fence of that, where we saw a lot of growth in the ancillary side of the business. And people don't know what the ancillary side is. That means not touching the plant. As far as myself, in the clothing and into the health and wellness sector, and what Mike, along with the hemp. So we've seen great strides and a lot of businesses starting to take off and get off the ground in that space. But we still got a long way to go because, like I said, this cannabis is a whole animal that needs a lot of attention. But there were great strides made to get us in the space. But as anything else that blacks do, there is still a lot of work for us to do in the space to be in better positions and C-suite positions, and to be able to now get into a space where we can become a MSO. For those that don't know, MSO, multi-state operators. So that's some of the heavy goals going into 2023 to see it expand and see us as a people grow in that space as well. Yes. Yes. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Uh,
Okay.
Hey, hey,
No, no,
hey,
no,
hey,
no,
let
no,
me
no.
just say this real quick, is
Definitely.
that, because I know the time is of essence, but I want
Right.
to talk about one thing in particular that all of us know about.
Yes.
And we have become educated when it comes to healthcare and preventive care.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Sterling has invested an enormous amount of time and energy to try to help the state of Illinois, help us, and to help Black businesses with his initiative. And he's labored diligently to make it happen. And it is good for the state of Illinois to have a contract because there's $1 trillion industry, that we're talking about. In Illinois, we're spending $26 billion, and the Black participation is virtually, so dismal. It's scary. And he's taught us that, healthcare outcome can be culturally sensitive. When it's delivered by people of color, the outcomes are better. And the reality of it is that we had Senator Kaler, my senator, who made sure he put $30 million into the budget for preventive care that was supposed to go to Simcoe Solution. This contract was supposed to be issued by the end of this year. They did not do it. I don't know where the director gets off, where she can just circumvent the General Assembly and do what she wants to do. That's what it seems like. But they haven't done anything, guys, and we have an obligation. One, because if Dr. Sterling does have this ability, I mean, he has this ability with an 18 with Dr. Carol Adams and so many other very talented people who are part of his team, that we got to see this thing through. That we cannot have $26 billion, little or no money going to preventive care. We got one of the best companies that's culturally sensitive, and we got to see this ball through. And it's important, that we not give up, that we don't get discouraged, that we fight to protect ourselves. Because when COVID came, guys, how many on a percentage basis, who got hit the worst?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Same thing.
Almost 65%. Yeah.
We did. And then we stood here, man, I don't know the number, Mike, but the percentage across the country was that we lost anywhere from 30 to 40% of Black businesses did not survive. And some of them came back, some of them didn't come back. But ladies and gentlemen, like I always tell us listening audience, and you got to take a look at this. No matter what you see, well, I say what you do speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying any longer. When we say that we care about Black people, and Black people get hit the hardest, and here we have something that can help change their life and their outcome. So when this pandemic hits and another virus hit, we can be more prepared for it. And we have a company where you're spending money, our taxpayers' dollars, and we don't give a company like Simcoe Solution an opportunity. We
Right.
fail ourselves, man. We're not protecting our own interests. But then when you take a look at, I tell people, I said, look, we got hit the hardest, but tell me, where did most of the resources go? When I tell people, if Florida takes a direct hit and a hurricane and Mississippi takes an indirect hit, where did FEMA put his money at, guys? In Florida.
And Florida. It's definitely going to Florida.
Well, because that's where the greatest devastation is.
Mm.
Ladies and gentlemen, you got to hear this and hear it clearly. You are an asset to this country. You are close to over $2 trillion economy.
Yes.
Bigger than the economy of Canada. We fought and died for this country. We've done everything that you can do to prove, and we're still trying to prove to white people that we're equal, but we're more than equal, or we're trying to prove them we want their validation. Well, I'm not looking for no one's validation. I want what I want because we deserve what we deserve. And we're going to have to be more aggressive when it comes to contracting across the state. We got the Department of IRS, who has has a debt collection contract. 6 white firms got it, that 1 black person, and we got some qualified black people. And we're sitting here and letting them take millions and hundreds of millions of dollars out of this community, where we could be employing our people, putting our kids through college, contributing to our organizations. But you cannot contribute unless you are a participant in this great American economy. And we got to fight for it because we deserve it. They ain't giving us nothing. Right. Your taxes help support this country. Every time they take money out of I got my paycheck with no big one, but they still take a good portion out of it. Let you know that. And when I put gas in my car, my gas would be much cheaper. If I didn't put gas, if they didn't have the motor fuel tax and the state taxes on it for economic development, man, I'm mad as hell. I want some of my money back.
Exactly. Right. Man.
I want some contracts. That's what we're going to talk to.
Right.
Department of Transportation, the Capital Development Board, all the people that we need to. But guys, we ought to take some calls.
Yeah, we got some calls coming in, friends. We definitely got some calls. Definitely, man. We're looking at 773-591-1690 for the Wake Up Show. And we're just going to jump right in on our first caller. Janice, you're on the air with the Wake Up Show. Hello.
I wanted to say, it's so beautiful to hear about Booker T. Washington and also the other gentleman, because I had heard of him, Arthur Fletcher, and the work he's done. But now we have been sold out every step of the way. Now, and we can't call names because you offend people. You can't do this because if I question you and what you've done. And Carol Adams was also on that thing with a couple of times. They were trying to get black policemen. And I saw nothing come of this. Yes. And I think she's an educator also. So I think we need to say, step down and let someone else take that place. If you've done nothing 30, 40, 50, 60 years and nothing has gotten better, we've got to look at the people we have surrounding us. And right now, with it being winter, why don't we try to get something with lawn care? Now, I love his show, Bruce, I think his name is Bruce Montgomery.
Bruce Montgomery, absolutely, my man.
Yes.
Yes. He used to have a show on Fridays when I was working from home. I used to listen to it. Well, he had a young black man who had been to jail who started a lawn care business. He had a lady who owned some of those restaurants, fried chicken places. He had so many different people on there. He had the man I just read in the paper, he passed away, who owned the shopping block. Mm-hmm. I mean, those were good shows.
Definitely.
That really showed us what we can do. But where's the lawn care industry at? We need to take that over by next year.
Absolutely.
Hey, I want to
Janice,
join the teachers and things.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Janice, not only lawn care business, but the hair care business.
You know what? To be honest with you, it's hard as heck for me to find black hair care products. So I'm using now the Bonner Brothers. And I want to say one quote, and then I'm going to let you go.
Yes.
He was on Tony Brown's Journal, and I really missed that because he had some excellent shows. Mm-hmm. He said, God is first, the older man. God is first, family second, and business is third. And we need to have these families. Mr. Gardner, who's still living now, his children need to write about him. Linda Johnson needs to write about her father.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Men of business who didn't make their living on poverty and helping the black people with poverty programs.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Janice. And I would simply say that too, that Mary Lou Hamer, all these other great black women also, we talk about great black men, but there's been some great black women. And I can tell you that my father was my rock. My mother was my inspiration.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely.
Yeah, IT. It was in no, it was IT. It was the first sheltered market, and we shout out to Charlotte Roberts, who was at the University of Illinois. We've done a couple IT sheltered markets. We got a big one that's coming up, and we got to do more, ladies and gentlemen. So we have to, Mike, again, because I want to hear from the audience, but there's so much to talk about. I shout out to Kelly Keys, to Bruce Montgomery on the Commission for Equity and Inclusion. We're counting on you guys to help pave the way because we got a lot of challenges of people who intentionally get in the way and try to make sure that we don't win no big contracts. They don't mind every now and then to give us a small contract for $100,000, but when it gets to like the brother got the $14 billion contract, man, they can't even phantom in Illinois. It's hard to do business in Illinois for Black people sometimes than it is to go out of the state and do business. And I've heard Black businesses say it. Why in your own state that you pay taxes that it be so difficult that you can go to other states and win contracts, but you can't seem to win contracts in the state of Illinois? Let's take some calls, guys.
Definitely. Princess, you are on.
Is this Princess?
Yes.
It's about darn time. I've been waiting quite a while.
Peace and blessings to you, sister.
What I want to say to you guys is happy Kwanzaa, for one thing.
Yes.
Another thing I want to thank you all. A lot of the things in which you say over the air, why haven't you advertised this? And I haven't seen it over the years anywhere other than on the radio. I'm a marketing person myself with hands-on experience.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
And when you speak about the women's perspective, you can't live with us, and you sure can't live without us when it comes to businesses, because we're going to get the stuff done. You understand what I'm saying?
Amen.
Thank you.
Real business people that really needs to talk to you all at the Black Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not being funny, but I'm not a person that does that. If Jesus didn't have no computer and he got things done, Princess get it done without a computer. I kid you not. You can run a business. You can run a business with just a cell phone, sir.
Yeah.
No, but I'm talking about manually for my eyes to see out here. Like on the bench, put it on the bench on the, street. That's real advertisement, because advertisement plays a very important part in a business to be successful. And not only that, word by mouth, the old school way. When you talk about
Princess,
the cannabis.
Princess, I'm going to interrupt you. I want to make sure. Can you give us your number? Can someone take Princess? Because I'd like to talk to you about how we can work closer together and continue to do the things that.
You can meet Princess over at the New Soul Food Restaurant.
New Soul Food Restaurant.
South Cicero.
Okay.
Got it.
It is called Passion to Eat. Google it.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, you have a gift waiting for you when you get there.
Okay. Hey, Princess, thanks a lot. Let's take one more call.
Let's go. All right. Let's take the next call. Deborah, you're on with the Wake Up Show.
Blessed Trinity, a blessed way to bring the New Year's in, gentlemen. Thank you. Fresh of breath air, as the callers have said, Miss Janice, and what she was saying about 40, 50 years. We've been here that long in Chicago. And Miss Ivory, thank you that I know you've been working with the mayor for the investments, which have been missing from Chicago Black communities since Father Daley. And Mayor Washington tried to bring about. So We thank you. And as far as those who've been around, for them, for the field to be so large for mayors, I'm praying that you will be able to continue to work with her to bring and to continue doing what you're doing. And thank you. You said that your obligation, thank you. You're obligated to God, and God knows that your obligation to your people. He sees it, and may this blow up. Young people, how do we bring young people in, the 30s, 40s, and even younger mothers with their children, so that they can see and get the education of what we're doing? Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Bless
much
you.
for that, Deborah. Thank you so much for that.
Hey, Mike, like you said, for my brothers and my sisters, ain't no stopping us now.
Yes, wake up. Wake up.
I love that song. Ain't no stopping us now. We on the move, man. We got to play that, the theme song at the convention. We can come in, you know, ain't no stopping. We on the move.
Yes, sir. Man. Theme. Okay.
I know you know someone that has a negative vibe.